I would move that House File 2220 be referred to Ways and Means, and with a recommendation that it go to Environment Finance. Please tell us about your bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And members, House File 2020 takes a step back and looks at the multiple dimensions of Minnesota's outdoor recreation economy. We have many stakeholders in this area. Families like mine that look to recreate for the opportunity to be together as a family, as well as all of the psychological, social, and physical benefits of outdoor recreation. Tourists who are attracted to Minnesota to fish and snowmobile and paddle their canoes or kayaks. Recreation businesses, whether they're seasonal mom and pop operations or year-round resorts, camps, restaurants, outfitters, and others. The manufacturing industries in Minnesota. Think of Polaris and Arctic Cat and the key role that those outdoor industries play in our local and regional economies. And of course, retailers, the folks who sell us the stuff that we put on our feet or put under our selves as we go out into the out of doors and enjoy it. There's also this growing recognition, not just the direct economic benefits of outdoor recreation, but the psychological, spiritual, and physical benefits of that. And we know that there's a growing outdoor recreation economy, and that in fact we have people moving to Minnesota to access our outdoor recreation opportunities. So there's a number of different stakeholders in this process, including local, regional, state, and federal government. One of the challenges we have, however, is equity and inclusion in this zone. We know that the younger population in Minnesota is far more diverse than is, well, folks my age in Minnesota, and that those more diverse populations may have different relationship with the out of doors, different experiences, different expectations. Frankly, if you've immigrated from a desert country, the idea of 10,000 lakes is kind of an odd one. And what do you do with all that water, and how do you do it safely? What House File 2020 excuse me, envisions is a outdoor recreation office that allows us to break through the jurisdictional, agency, and other boundaries and jurisdictions to create one space where all of the stakeholders can come together, work collectively to enhance the outdoor recreation industry and opportunity for all of Minnesota. With me today, and I'm not sure who wants to go first, are representatives from the Children in Nature Network, as well as REI, one of the major retailers in this space. And did you guys figure out who goes first?
Go ahead.
All right.
Fine, that work. You got it figured. Okay.
Yep,
So
thank you.
please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mark Bareka. I'm Director of Government and Community Affairs for REI Co-op. Outdoor recreation is an economic gem hiding in plain sight. As we've just discussed, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of firms that are in the recreation economy ecosystem in Minnesota. They can be guides, they can be outfitters, they can be designers and developers of products, they can be retailers like ourselves at the co-op. REI is super proud to be part of this ecosystem. We have hundreds of employees in Minnesota. We buy product and then distribute it throughout the rest of the country from at least 24 Minnesota-based companies. And importantly, we have almost 500,000 co-op members in the state of Minnesota. REI is often thought of as a big player in the outdoor recreation economy, but truth be told, it's a very big pond, and we're a decent-sized fish, but not the biggest fish. Minnesota has actually 140,000 people directly employed by the outdoor recreation economy. Consumers spend $17 billion, that generates $1.4 billion in state and local taxes. The challenge for the outdoor recreation sector is that we're broadly spread. That's a strength in some regards, but this bill can help us overcome some of our sector's shortcomings. It's a strength in that users of the outdoors are spread across the entire state of Minnesota. People love to get out into the outdoors wherever they live, whether that's in a rural town or here. It's especially important to note that outdoor recreation is an economic driver in some of the most rural parts of the state. But we're fragmented. People can be very parochial about their favorite activity. People can be very parochial about their favorite type of trail or about their favorite type of product. What outdoor recreation offices have done in other states is they've served as conveners and they've served as silo busters. They bring together the passionate people who love the outdoors and have said, we must serve a higher purpose, not just our interest in fishing or in hiking or in snowmobiling, but collectively, what can we do? And not just our interest in a particular agency's activities, but what can we do together? In Wyoming, they've created a subcabinet of all agencies, and their mission is to make government more efficient, to maximize the return on investment in recreation infrastructure. In Washington State, we have a big tent coalition, and we partner with the legislative caucus that week in, week out during session tries to optimize the management of legislation that touches on any part of outdoor recreation. And so bringing all stakeholders together collaboratively can drive enormous benefits. The benefits are beyond economic. They are to the well-being of our children, to the well-being of us as human beings, our physical and mental health, to the cohesion of our communities, and to the well-being of our planet. And so we would urge as the co-op Minnesota to join the movement that's occurring across the country to create these offices. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee, Representative Dabney. My name is Laura Milan. I am here on behalf of the Children and Nature Network. We are a nonprofit organization working to address the fact that over the past few generations, and just a few generations, childhood has truly moved indoors. And this has really serious implications for our children, for the future of the wild places that we love, and Minnesota's outdoor recreation economy. And we know that kids of color and kids in low-income communities have even less access to outdoor recreation and high-quality green space than their peers. We are an evidence-based organization, so everything I share with you today is based on science, and I have reams of studies to back them up. But we're working in 20 U.S. cities, including Minneapolis and St. Paul, and around the world. We advance the evidence base that is clearly indicating that regular, unstructured time outdoors, outdoor recreation, is absolutely critical for children's healthy development. Or as we like to say, nature makes kids happier, healthier, and smarter. So let's take a look at healthier. Kids today are spending approximately 44 hours per week in front of a screen of some kind, and on average, less than 10 minutes a day playing outdoors. This lack of physical activity has led to serious health implications and problems for too many kids for too long. They are on the fast track for a lifetime of chronic disease. But kids who spend time outdoors in nature, they're more physically active and more physically fit. Playing outdoors promotes all the great things that childhood brings: development of core strength, balance, agility, development of gross motor skills. And this is a new set of studies coming out. Time spent in bright sunlight is essential for developing healthy vision. Myopia, nearsightedness in children, has risen 25% over the past 40 years and is now directly linked to kids not spending time outdoors. So that's healthier. Let's talk about happier. Multiple studies show that spending time outdoors together as a family increases and strengthens family bonds. And we know that active outdoor families support a variety of Minnesota businesses, nonprofit causes, and environmental concerns. Spending time in nature reduces stress, anxiety, promotes positive moods, and improves social functioning in children. The phytochemicals in trees and other factors actually reduce blood pressure and heart rate. Unstructured outdoor time in nature provides opportunities for kids to take risks, develop problem-solving skills, build self-esteem and a sense of agency. And we know that the greater time in nature, the greater the benefit. The more time you spend outdoors, the more benefit you receive. Which leads us to smarter. Without a doubt, outdoor recreation, outdoor learning, nature-based activities improve academic outcomes. Regular physical activity, which tends to be greater when you spend time outdoors, improves brain function in children. When kids learn and play in natural environments, we see improved performance in reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. And you'll also find enhanced creativity and executive function, fewer behavior problems, and increased engagement and enthusiasm for learning. Time in nature also helps kids develop a love of outdoor places and develops a conservation ethic. We take care of the things that we care about, and this is critical for the future of our natural resources and our natural places. I'm really thankful to share this information with you today in support of Minnesota's Office of Outdoor Recreation. In some ways, we think it mirrors kind of what we do for the Children in Nature movement. When this movement got started about 15 years ago and really started picking up speed, the Children in Nature Network thought that our role would be to support organizations doing great work, let 1,000 flowers bloom. And in fact, there are many, and were many, and continue to be many organizations doing great work on the ground, chipping away at this huge societal shift. Society has moved indoors, and progress is being made, but not fast enough to keep up with the trend of childhood moving indoors. What we have learned is that by playing a coordinating role, advancing the evidence base, promoting innovative strategies, convening leaders, driving broad policy change, we are driving more progress more quickly. And there is some urgency. The first generation of really tech-savvy kids, indoor kids, they are now becoming parents. And kids in low-income communities and communities of color continue to experience more barriers and less access to outdoor recreation than their peers. And this is really troubling because we know that nature-based learning, outdoor recreation, it's a great strategy for reducing health and academic achievement gaps. And all kids deserve to experience the wonder of nature. So on behalf of the Children in Nature Network, we'd like to provide our support for the Minnesota Office of Outdoor Recreation to help secure a healthier future for our kids and Minnesota's natural places. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there other testifiers on this bill? But Commissioner Meyer walking down, okay? Please introduce yourself and proceed, Mr. Meyer.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Did have the opportunity to sit down with the author yesterday and express some of our concerns with the bill. We support outdoor recreation and diversity and inclusion at the highest level. We talked very in depth with Representative Becker-Finn on our No Child Left Inside bill and the activities we do. And I'm proud to say we'll be displaying our I CAN programs in the Capitol Rotunda here shortly to show what we do to outreach to everybody to bring them into the system. And luckily, the legislature supports this as well. Back in 1975, they established the Outdoor Recreation Act, which is in Chapter 86A, which goes on to say 86A.02, the legislature finds the unique natural, cultural, and historical resources of Minnesota provide abundant opportunities for outdoor recreation and education, and finds that these opportunities should be made available to all citizens in Minnesota now and to the future. It talks about preservation and utilization and the establishment of the system. And actually in 86A.03, it defines what outdoor recreation is. And it's everything that we talk about. It's hunting, it's fishing, it's camping, it's kayaking, it's mountain biking, it's off-road recreation, it's motorized and non-motorized. If you look at the language, it's very broad, and it covers everything that the department has responsibility of. We do have some concerns about the language as drafted. We were never consulted in the development of the language. We think it has a few problems in there, providing another office on lines 1.13 to 1.14 to coordinate outdoor recreational policy and management among state and federal agencies and local government entities. What does that mean? Now we'll have somebody come in and say that in state forests, it's appropriate to do this, but not to do that, or the hierarchy would be provide outdoor recreation, not timber utilization. How does it deal with our Minnesota's natural resource-based economy and recreation, which is a role the DNR has. As you know, we focus on recreation, outdoor activities and conservation. The tourism, timber, and taconite, as we call it, need to all work together. We can't have one side of the bubble popping out or not. We support the concept wholeheartedly and want to do whatever we can to support our outdoor recreation in the state of Minnesota. However, this is not one Minnesota. One Minnesota is bringing all the stakeholders together to talk about what is the future of outdoor recreation and how do we deal with it, rather than have a bill come in here and try to create something that may or may not need to be created, but we should have a conversation with all stakeholders within the outdoor recreation system and all cultures within the state of Minnesota on how they want to recreate. So we support the concept. However, we cannot support the bill as drafted or the establishment of the office in this bill. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Other justifiers on the bill? Welcome. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm Tom Hackbarth. I'm here to represent the All-Terrain Vehicle Association of Minnesota. We are opposed to the bill as it is. The All-Terrain Vehicle Association of Minnesota has been around about 35 years. This is our 35th anniversary, and we've been at the Capitol every year trying to make outdoor recreation for ATVs much better, giving folks a place to ride. We have said that from the very beginning. If we establish trails, put people on trails, they won't be running all over the country and doing bad things. And that has worked very successfully. Another thing that All-Terrain Vehicle Association of Minnesota has done is establish a youth education program. That's worked very well also. And we've been coordinating with the DNR for many years and trying to make that program better and better, and we're very successful with that. If you look at the statistics on actual trails that are out there, most accidents are happening by people from youth and people that have not had our training, and it's usually on private property. Out on the public trails, you don't see those kinds of fatalities and injuries that are going on. We've worked very, very well with the DNR over the last 35 years, and we do things like education, we do things like promoting our sport. I think this just adds another layer of bureaucracy that is going to make things more difficult to keep moving forward. So the All-Terrain Vehicle Association of Minnesota does oppose this bill as it stands. Stand for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your testimony. Let me just see if we've got other justifiers out there real quick. And then we'll, let's do that, and then we'll go to questions, if that's okay. Please introduce yourself and
Mr.
proceed.
Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Doug Franzen, and I represent the Minnesota Snowmobilers Association. I think this bill has a germ of a really good idea, but frankly, it needs a lot of work. And for us, we support the goals of that. In fact, I was speaking with another lobbyist who took a snowmobiling trip up to our great north, up around Crane Lake. And he reported amazing snowmobiling, but he also reported that he ran into a group of 20 snowmobilers. And he didn't think they were particularly good snowmobilers, novices. Well, what had happened is 20 people from California flew to Minnesota, went to a resort, rented 20 snowmobiles, had a ball, and they're going to go back to California and tell more people. I think that type of experience is the goal of this bill. And again, I think the bill does need more work. That we've heard some of the issues thus far, but we would pledge to be part of that work, and wherever this goes, we will be engaged with the author and with others to move forward and have the best legislation absolutely possible.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more, looks like. Or maybe a couple. Okay. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Mr. Chair, members, Dan Larson, Minnesota Four-Wheel Drive Association. Thanks for the ability to comment on this bill. Right now, we're going to weigh in as being skeptical on the bill. We haven't run it through our process, but the reason for that is our group is misunderstood. These are 90%, 95% Jeep drivers that are looking for more ways to recreate through forests and even private parks in the state. And we have built, through the last 12 years I've been with the group, relationships within the DNR that have been hard fought, and we're still building them. When you think of a four-wheel drive vehicle, it's often larger, more aggressive kind of machines. And right now, I have to tell you, we have spent 10 years working to build relationships in places that we recreate, that you could, there isn't a civic leader, law enforcement, mayor, anyone in those towns, in Gilbert or Appleton, who wouldn't give a glowing response to the relationships that we built. We're a little concerned about shifting that over into other agencies because we know it's fragile. And Mr. Chair and members, this is a group that is on the move. I want you to watch this. There's a bill right now that's going to be coming through, border-to-border touring routes, that is going to, the strategy with the group is you got to do something big to get on the map and to start showing people who you are and how you recreate. So we anticipate with this border-to-border, you're going to start in Cook County and end at the North Dakota border, and we ended in Pembina at the Canadian border because North Dakota told us when they got wind of the route, the touring route, put it up here because that'll give us a good link, a starting point to build across our state. So there's that project and 17 others in our queue. And we've got, because we haven't had a lot of projects to spend money on, we've got a very healthy off-road vehicle account. So right now, we're going to be skeptical on the bill. We appreciate you bringing it forward, Representative, and that's my testimony.
Thanks for your testimony. Any other testifiers? Seeing none, let's go to question. And I have Representative Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess for the bill author, do we have anybody here from the Department of Transportation? Have you conferred with anybody as to exactly what the interface would be with the Department of Transportation should this bill go forward?
I'm sorry, I was not paying attention, I was looking at who's next, so.
All right, so, Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, that's part of the ongoing conversation. I think what you're illustrating is there are multiple stakeholders who all have an interest in the outdoor recreation opportunity and industry here, and we need to have a place where they can all come together. Thank you for pointing that out.
A follow-up, it would really be great if we could have those folks here and be part of that as opposed to sitting here in the blind. You know, I mean, we're talking about putting a requirement on both on a position, a new position apparently, and another agency. It would seem like it'd be appropriate that we would have talk to those folks first and had them available here to answer questions. But is there anybody here from the Department of Deed directly that can speak to this, or have you spoken with anybody from the department on this issue?
Representative Dabney.
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, you'll have to ask other agencies why they're not present. The hearing was publicly noticed.
Representative Luke.
Oh, thank you. I guess, so am I correct then that you didn't request that they comment on this?
Representative Dabney.
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, I hope to have ongoing conversations with all the stakeholders. That's the idea behind the bill, is drawing those multiple stakeholders across jurisdictional lines with agencies, local governments, as Mr. Hackbarth pointed out, and Mr. Larson, local, regional government agencies, state and federal. We need a place where all of those stakeholders can come together.
Well, as we, Mr. Chair, thank you, and to the bill author, well, I guess it would be great if we could start right here and have those people available so we could hear what their perspective is. Because as we all know, these things go forward and then they're put into law, and then it's too late. I mean, this kind of seems like the horse and cart here mixed up. Another question, I noticed that for whatever reason, was it a mistake that we left out the Department of Education for the consultation and a requirement? I heard some very compelling testimony from one of the testifiers here that we've got a huge particular problem, I think, with the young folks unable to get out. I think they spend 5 days a week, basically an 8-hour block tied up in school. So why specifically wouldn't the Department of Education be part of this?
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, Minnesota science standards do include standards that direct opportunities for outdoor engagement for students, and many schools send their students for days or for several days or maybe up to a week to environmental learning centers that are scattered across the state, to various camps operated by nonprofits. So that piece is already baked in. I think the legislative process is a deliberative one, and I welcome that. That's why moving this bill forward and allowing the conversation to continue is so important. But in my way of thinking, what this office does is invite the questions and not presuppose the answers.
A follow-up, I guess, maybe we could have Mr. Meyer come back, because I'd like to find out whether would make more sense to, if we're going to expand government here, that we put some type of position within the DNR. And I would like to also find out where the DNR is right now on staffing relative to be able to carry out the missions that they're doing on behalf of outdoor recreation. So I don't know if Mr. Meyer's still in the room. Oh, there he is.
I see him. Welcome back, Commissioner Meyer. Please just say your name again, and did you hear the question?
Mr. Chairman, members, yes, for the record, Bob Meyer, Department of Natural Resources. And we've spoke about this in committee before. So we have many different, we call it R3, recruitment, retention, and renewal opportunities within the agency, not only in parks and trails, but in fish and wildlife. All of our other agencies divisions are working closely with that. We have a cross-divisional team to look at that. One of the thoughts is this would probably fit better in DNR than in the Office of Tourism. A lot of the things I outlined, especially the coordination among outdoor recreation policy and management, that's within our statutes, within our purview. It's the duties and administration under Chapter 84 that the Commissioner has. So it's one of the ongoing things that needs to be discussed. As I mentioned, we sat down with the author and the stakeholders. I think there is support to move forward with a broad policy position to try to figure out how do we do this the right way and include everybody throughout the state who wants to spend time in the state, Minnesota outdoors, either in the wintertime, summertime, doing what they want to do. But let's bring them together and have a conversation to decide what we should have in place.
Just on the second part of the question, maybe right now from a staffing standpoint, where are we at? You know, I don't want to get into details on state rec areas. I know we've had some situations where across state parks, state rec areas, in our motorized vehicle area, even on the conservation officers, where we don't have those positions filled yet. So I guess the gut question is, why would we create another position over here if we're having issues on trying to pull the freight train on outdoor recreation now? I mean, are we close to 100% manned in that whole broad arena? I know that's a pretty general question.
Commissioner Meyer.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lewick, we try to retain the best employees that we can and hire the best we can. Obviously, it's a pretty fruitful labor market out there right now, and finding the professionals in the outdoor recreation industry, not the industry, but people with outdoor recreation, STEM, science, technology, engineering, math is very challenging for state government right now, as for all people across those technologies. Our conservation officers, we're always challenging, trying to keep those filled as they seem to retire just as fast as we hire new ones. So we aren't at 100%. I don't think we're ever at 100% complement, but we try to do the best we can to make sure that our parks, our state rec areas are staffed and have the people with the knowledge to provide our customers, our citizens, the residents of the state of Minnesota, the opportunities they expect and deserve.
Representative Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, do we have anybody here from Explore Minnesota? Obviously, they'd be a big player in here because the assumption would be that if they're going to appoint the individual, then I guess they would become part of their office.
I don't see anybody coming forward.
Wow. I guess we'll never know.
Representative Blake.
I guess we'll never know, Mr. Chair. Maybe the bill author can explain then to you, I mean, exactly what would be the intention and what would be the relationship with the individual that would appoint this position.
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Lewick. I think if we keep doing what we've been doing, we'll keep getting what we've been getting. I think change is hard, and I think we're seeing that here in front of the committee. I think government reform is hard, and I think we're seeing that as well here in front of the committee. I think it's also difficult for an agency to coordinate across other agencies. One agency then is seen as owning it and isn't always perceived, rightly or wrongly, as playing well with the other agencies. That's why we need to do something different. And that's why placing this office in the Office of Tourism, which has a little different perspective and a little different relationship, rather than one of the more driving agencies, is key. As I said, reform is hard, but I believe that we can do that.
Representative Blake.
Mr. Chair, I agree that reforming or moving agencies is a tall task. I think we all labor at that. I guess another question would be, is this in the governor's budget, and where's the governor? Because I've found that a really aggressive governor can really move agencies. In fact, if I remember right, the commissioners serve at his pleasure or her pleasure. So where's the governor on this? Have you consulted with him, and is this a part of his budget?
Representative Dabney.
Mr. Chair, Representative Lewick, we're a co-equal branch of government.
We agree on that one too, Representative Dabney.
Representative Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess we'll have to, anybody here from the governor's office that wishes to speak?
From the governor.
I'm here to help. I see we've got another individual who would like to testify, and don't get me wrong here, Representative Dabney. It makes sense. We're literally the recreational capital of the Midwest. There's no question about that. So we got to constantly push the bubble on making sure that we open this opportunity to everybody, starting with Minnesotans, obviously, and then bring in all those rich folks that live around the surrounding states and across the world. So I think we probably need to pull back and maybe look at a little bit different direction here on this particular bill. So with that, and I see we've got another individual that might want to testify, or maybe he's got some answers to questions. So I'll just give her back to the chair here.
Thank you, Representative Blake, and please introduce yourself for the record. And
Mr. Carlson, or Mr. Chairman and members, I'm Joel Carlson, and I've long been involved in tourism, outdoor recreation issues here at the Capitol on behalf of the small resorting community, and I'm a member of the Explore Minnesota Tourism Public Policy Committee. We have a committee that reviews all of the legislative proposals that come to us, and we haven't had a chance to look at this one yet, and I think that that's the response that you're getting from a lot of people that are involved. We absolutely support the concept of promoting tourism and outdoor recreation, and we have many of you around the table that have been laboring to do that for decades. We just, as a public policy group at EMT, we haven't had an opportunity to review this. We're happy to do so at a next meeting. But EMT as a group, with the money that you've appropriated, and Representative Fabian has been supportive of, and Heinzman, promotes outdoor recreation in Minnesota. They use resorts as their theme. It is clearly something that is a focus of what EMT does right now and in conjunction with our agency partners. And I think an opportunity to see how this would blend, this concept would blend with the existing work that's going on is a good one, and we're happy to look at it, but we just haven't taken, I don't think EMT, I know our policy committee has not taken a position, and we're happy to do it, but we just haven't at this point. You asked us, and now you know.
Thanks for your testimony. So we've got some more on the list here. Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair and members, I think this is the third kind of theme day we've had or where people are talking about how to get more people involved in the outdoors. So we heard it when the DNR did presentations. We heard it with Representative Becker-Finn, and now we're hearing it with Representative Davney. And I hear common themes throughout all those, that a recognition that Minnesota is changing and a recognition that we need to get more people outdoors. I think it probably would benefit us to get outdoors when we're trapped in here for 8 hours a day. So I'm going to try to get out during the noon hour. But I think we keep getting presented the data that it's important for kids and us as humans to get outdoors and be outside. So I think that's where there's a common ground. I think what it was interesting to me, I heard the words skepticism, misunderstood, fear, not consulted from the testifiers, including the DNR. And that might actually prove the point of the need for your bill or something like that, of bringing people together, that we have efforts going on trying to resolve what I think the state has recognized as a need, and the need is changing because we have a changing state. So the established outdoor recreation sports, of some of which we heard from, there may be people who are not stakeholders, but are just people who want to get involved, that we recognize that there's a need to get them involved, whatever they do, whether it's the silent sports or whether it's the mechanized sports or it's wherever it is in the state. So I think there is an opportunity here to find some way of coordinating better, because we're hearing there's a need from folks who may not already be engaged. And how we do that, I think, Representative Dabney, your bill goes to government operations from here, is that correct? Or
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Representative Davney.
the chair's motion was to Ways and Means with a recommendation for a re-referral to Environment Finance.
Okay. So that conversation could continue, and hopefully there's more engagement with folks about this rather than having the conversation stop here. When I listen to whether it's the DNR or when we had testimony with Representative Becker-Finn or your testimony, both for and against, the piece that's always the same is that we need to do something to try to reach people a little better. And so I would encourage the conversation continuing, but I ask you to reach out, particularly to the folks that testify, but also people who may not be here today because they're working or they may not be aware of how this system works and need to have a voice. So in town meetings and in things like that, try to get people involved who don't normally have a seat at the table. So I would support moving it on to continue the conversation.
Thank you.
I'm just going to interject real quick. We have secured this room till noon, so hopefully we have time to get through all our bills here and it'll make Thursday evening a little less onerous. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought the testimony from the lady from the Children and Nature Network was excellent, concerning some of the statistics that she gave us. And the one about 44 hours a week that kids spend in front of a screen is concerning, to say the least. And I also agree with the benefits of kids being outdoors. You know, my kids grow up on the farm, and taken for granted having them go out in the pasture to check on the cows or spend a Saturday picking rocks out in the field, getting the benefits of being outside and a work ethic. But My question is, could she share that testimony with us, the committee members? Because it really points out the benefit of being outdoors and the concern of how much time kids spend looking at a screen today.
Representative Anderson will request that that be given to us in writing. And I see a positive response. Thank you. So if you would make sure, just send it to the chair's office, if you would, please. Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Anderson, I'd encourage you to sign on to my bill as well, No Child Left Inside.
Representative Lichtlegar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think it's a wonderful bill, but I do have concerns myself. In greater Minnesota, you know, we're trying to diversify and create tourism, so I think it's wonderful to bring them to the table. And so, but listening to the testimony, it didn't seem like everybody was a part of it. And so I thought Representative Hansen brought up some really, really good points for this to move forward. It would mean a lot to bring everybody to the table. So at the next stage of this, that they're sitting here testifying in support of your bill. You know, I went riding this weekend that I got 2 Polarises from Representative Fabian's neck of the woods, and we figured it out when we sat there and ate. We stopped at multiple spots, 14 of us, the people who groom the trails, the people that do all of this, and we're very, very excited. They're so passionate about it, and it's about $100 a day. So for every person on a sled with gas and oil and stops, it's about $100 a day. And for Northeast Minnesota, that's a lot for small communities. And so when we're having these discussions, and we're talking about nature, and we're talking about kids being involved and engaged and understanding it, and you're talking about tourism, let's make sure that everybody at the table and all these different clubs are a part of it, because I think they can really help shape the bill so it's successful moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just to follow up on Representative Lichtlegar's comments, Representative Dabney, I think you missed a really good opportunity to get your bill off on the right foot. I think if you would have engaged people right away, the Department of Health, you've got named in here, transportation, you've got education component. If you would have engaged those folks right away, I think that you would have had an opportunity to move that bill through here fairly rapidly. But I want to address, and in your opening comments, you didn't reference, you named Polaris and Arctic Cat. There's nobody in this building that knows those 2 businesses better than I do, I don't think. And I have, for a long time, advocated for, and I think we've missed a golden opportunity here in the metro area. We have 389 miles of trails in the metro park system, and not a single mile for an ATV. And I think they told us there was 12 miles of snowmobile trails here in the metro trail system. It's a huge opportunity that's being missed, and we continue to be met with skepticism by many of the metro legislators about what snowmobiles and ATVs actually are. When I've had bills here and amendments to try to expand ATV opportunities, they've been met with resistance because they've been portrayed as being noisy, smoky, dangerous vehicles that we don't want them around. And I hope that as this bill moves forward, that people will begin to realize how significantly they can benefit local economies because people ride them. And again, I'll go back to what I said. You talked something about equity in your comments. We need some equity here in the metro area for owners of ATVs and snowmobiles so that they, I like that they come up to our district to ride them. I get that. But on the occasions that they can't get away, they want to go for an evening ride or whatever, they have an opportunity almost outside their back doors. Thank you.
Oh, Representative Wagenius.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am actually very grateful for this discussion. I particularly, when Representative Anderson talked about the ability of his children to pick rocks. and my children have had similar opportunities because we too have a farm, much smaller, but we do have a farm. But I think it's very difficult to understand for people who do have the opportunities to pick rocks, and that children in the metro don't have the same opportunities. And I'm going to give you one example that's frustrated me no end. And I don't even know that I've ever shared this with Representative Davney. But we have good bike trails in Minneapolis, and you can go round and round and round. But you can't get out into the DNR system. There are only a couple of opportunities now, one in the Northeast Metro in St. Paul, to get out for somebody who wants to just maybe take their family out on a family biking outing. You can't go south. You can't go along the Minnesota River. You can't, on a weekend trip, you can't do it because there are not these connections. And I think what you are bringing up to us is the need for these connections, these trail connections. The folks in my district and in the city who can go round and round can go south, go along, get over the Minnesota River, go along the river, go either side, go up the Minnesota River, take the family camping for the weekend. It's just not there because we don't have those connections, and we haven't made them. We've had this outstate system, we've had the metro system, and they're not connected. So I really am grateful for this conversation. Look forward to moving this bill along.
Representative Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Davney, I appreciate you bringing this bill forward. I think that your testifiers really demonstrated the need for a better understanding of the network of opportunities that we have here in Minnesota. I think that we've heard from several different people about kids being able to get outside and not getting outside. And I think that young people today, at least the millennials, they prefer experiences over items. And so having that information about where experiences can be and the opportunities that might be available to them, I think would be invaluable. And so I think that I appreciate what your bill's trying to do, and I think there's been some great discussion around how it can be improved, and I think that would be great. I look forward to hearing more about it.
No further member questions. Before I ask you for some final comments, Representative Dabney, I'd like to take the opportunity. Whoa, okay, backing up. Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thankfully for the committee, most of my questions have been answered because they were have you talked to resort owners, and apparently the answer is no. And I can tell you that from my experience with resort owners, the last thing in the world they want is another agency to deal with. We've already whittled them down from over 3,000 in the late 70s to under 800 today. Apparently you haven't talked to Explore Minnesota. And a lot of the things that you have under duties, other agencies are already doing. And so I'm really very concerned about starting another agency. But there is no fiscal note. And on subsection 3, it looks to me like you're going to require every other agency to assist with this new agency. Is that correct?
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Green, there is no fiscal note at this time. This is a policy committee. But this is intended as a place where stakeholders come together. And that will include agencies because we need to have a space where we can work across agency lines and across jurisdictional lines and across stakeholder lines. And that's what the Office of Outdoor Recreation offers as an opportunity to the state so that those small resort owners that you're referring to can have more customers, because I think that's a big piece of what they need.
Representative Green.
Mr. Chair, I think that's the wrong direction to go. We've created Explore Minnesota to do that. I mean, that's what their job is to get out and promote the outdoors. And now we're going to create something else above that. So your fiscal note is actually going to have to incorporate in what all these other agencies are going to have to spend dealing with this new agency. And that in itself could be a problem. I only have one other question then, because the rest have been asked. It says in subsection 2, under 4, line 1.16, assist in establishing outdoor recreation businesses. What do you intend to do, or what are they going to intend to do? Because we have businesses there. And I'll tell you my concern, Representative Dabney, and I'm not trying to be pounding at you here, but every time the government gets involved in assisting a business, we lose more of them. And so if you're going to establish a business, is it going to be a state-run business? Are you going to assist businesses that are already there? Because I can tell you that a lot of times we'll assist a new business in getting started, and many times that business won't last more than 5 years, but by starting that new business, we've created competition for another one, and we harm existing businesses. So is there anything in here, or first of all, your businesses that you're starting, are they going to be state-run, or you intend to look for private businesses? And is there any goals here of shoring up existing businesses?
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Green, if you read beyond to the end of 1.16, provide technical assistance with resources and opportunities for economic development. To me, that means economic growth that benefits Minnesotans. I think the goal is implicit there. Some businesses will succeed, some will fail. That's the nature of the free market system.
So then just to follow up, Mr. Chair, so you're not really telling, are you going to help private business, or do you intend to expand on state-run businesses, which we've seen a lot of, even in the DNR, who have now opened up parks and recreation areas that they said they weren't going to, that are running competition with our private resorts?
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Green. Well, we had the private industry here testifying in favor of the bill today. So I think that shows the interest in the growth in private industry here.
I'm looking here. I don't have any other names. Last call. Members. Okay. President Dabney, as I was saying a few minutes ago, before your final comments on the bill, I was taken by the words that you said early on here, and that is if we continue to do things the way we're doing them, we can expect the same outcomes. And another consistency that I've heard across members here today and testifiers is we got to do better for our children, and in many of our instances, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I think that your bill is intended to do that. So I wholeheartedly support your efforts, and I think you got a pretty good bill, and when you have a pretty good bill, you get beat up from every side one time or another, and you know that. Most of us know that here. But keep after it. So final comments.
I don't think I could best what the chair just said. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to present this bill. I'm excited for the opportunities that this bill portends for businesses in the state, for families in the state, and for bringing in more people. Because to me, the essence of Minnesota is our rugged outdoor opportunities. And we need to preserve those, we need to enhance those, and we need to bring more people to those. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Dabney, and good fortune to you going ahead. With that, I'll renew my motion that this House File 2220 be referred to Ways and Means with a recommended re-referral to Environment Finance. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it.
Thank you much.
Bill's been re-referred. Thank you.